The year is 1914. The world watches as Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie arrive in Sarajevo. Tensions are high, but this is not unusual for the Balkans, a region accustomed to unrest. As the Archduke's motorcade navigates the crowded streets, a chance encounter changes history.
In our timeline, it was an assassin's bullet, but in this peaceful alternate timeline, fate or perhaps just sheer luck intervenes. A wrong turn, a delayed departure, a last-minute change of plans, the details hardly matter.
What matters is that the spark that lit the fuse of the Great War never ignited.
The Archduke, oblivious to the fate he avoided, completes his visit without incident. News of the Sarajevo near miss spreads quickly, a curiosity more than a cause for alarm. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, while relieved, uses the incident to justify increased security measures in the region. The balance of power in Europe, always precarious, remains intact. The world breathes a collective sigh of relief, but it is a fragile peace, built on a foundation that remains vulnerable. Without the cataclysm of World War I, Europe's empires face a different kind of reckoning. The pressures of nationalism and self-determination, already simmering beneath the surface, continue to build. Germany, its growing industrial and military might unmatched, finds itself increasingly hemmed in by its rivals. The Ottoman Empire, long known as the sick man of Europe, struggles to hold on to its vast, multi-ethnic territories. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, its internal divisions never resolved by war, faces mounting calls for autonomy from its diverse population. In Russia, the Tsar's grip on power weakens with each passing year as social unrest and calls for reform continue to grow. The seeds of revolution are sown not on the battlefields of a world war, but in the hearts and minds of a population yearning for change. The League of Nations, formed in the aftermath of the averted crisis, takes on a different role in this world. Without a devastating war to avenge or prevent, its focus shifts towards diplomacy and international cooperation. It serves as a forum for dialogue, a place where nations can air their grievances and work towards peaceful solutions.
The United States, never drawn into a European war, maintains its isolationist stance. It views the League with skepticism, preferring to focus on its own affairs. Despite its limitations, the League achieves some notable successes. It mediates border disputes, promotes international trade, and facilitates cultural exchange programs.
Yet its lack of any real enforcement power and the self-interest of individual nations limit its effectiveness in addressing the root causes of global tensions. The 1920s spared the economic devastation of war, roar even louder in this timeline. With millions of lives saved and resources not diverted to the war effort, the global economy experiences an unprecedented boom. New technologies, developed during the war years for military purposes, find their way into the civilian world. Today, this hadn't happened in this alternative timeline.
Automobiles become more affordable, revolutionizing transportation and transforming urban landscapes. Air travel, spurred by advancements in aviation, connects distant corners of the globe. The radio, once a military communication tool, becomes a ubiquitous source of entertainment and information, broadcasting news, music, and cultural programs to a global audience.
The world is smaller, more connected, and seemingly more prosperous than ever before. Section 5, Culture Club: Art and Innovation in a World Untouched by War. The absence of a global conflict has a profound impact on the cultural landscape of the 1920s and 30s. Artists, writers, and musicians spared the horrors of war, explore new themes, and experiment with new forms of expression. The lost generation of writers, so disillusioned by the senseless slaughter of World War I, never exists. Instead, a new generation, shaped by peace and prosperity, emerges. Their art reflects the technological advancements and social changes of the era. Jazz music, born in the American South, spreads across the globe, its infectious rhythms and improvisational spirit capturing the energy of the times. The cinema, still in its infancy, flourishes, offering audiences an escape from reality and a glimpse into new worlds. Section 6, the cracks begin to show, unresolved tensions simmer. Beneath the surface of this prosperous and progressive world, the unresolved tensions of the past continue to simmer. The Austro-Hungarian and Ottoman empires, despite avoiding the collapse brought about by war, continue to grapple with internal divisions. Nationalist movements, fueled by economic disparities and ethnic tensions, gain momentum. The global economic boom, built on shaky foundations, begins to falter in the 1930s. The stock market crash of 1929, though not as devastating as in our timeline, triggers a worldwide recession. Unemployment rises and social unrest becomes more common. The promises of peace and prosperity ring hollow for millions struggling to make ends meet. The stage is set for a new kind of global conflict, one driven not by territorial ambitions or imperial rivalries, but by ideology and economic despair. Section 7. A new kind of war. The ideological struggle heats up. In the 1930s, as the world grapples with economic hardship, new ideologies emerge, offering competing visions for the future. Communism, with its promise of equality and worker empowerment, gains traction in countries hit hard by the recession. Fascism, with its emphasis on national unity and authoritarian leadership, appeals to those who yearn for order and stability amidst the chaos.
These competing ideologies create new fault lines, dividing nations and pitting neighbor against neighbor. The battleground is no longer confined to trenches and battlefields, but extends to the airwaves, newspapers, and classrooms. Propaganda becomes a weapon, used to sway public opinion and demonize the enemy. The world finds itself on the brink of a different kind of war, one fought not with tanks and airplanes, but with words, ideas, and unwavering belief.
Section 8. The world aflame. Again, a different kind of global conflict. In this alternate 1940s, the world plunges into a global conflict unlike any seen before. It is a war of ideologies, a clash between communism and fascism, with democracy caught in the crossfire. The Soviet Union, emboldened by its growing industrial might and fueled by revolutionary fervor, expands its influence across Eastern Europe. A coalition of fascist powers, led by a resurgent and militarized Germany, emerges as a counterforce. This new conflict engulfs Europe, Asia, and Africa, drawing in nations large and small. The battle lines are fluid, the alliances often shifting. It is a war fought not only on traditional battlefields, but also in the shadows, a war of espionage, sabotage, and covert operations. Section 9, picking up the pieces, a different world, familiar scars. The ideological world war, while different in nature from the one that ravaged our timeline, leaves its own legacy of devastation. Millions perish, not just on battlefields, but also in labor camps and in cities, targeted by indiscriminate bombing campaigns. The war ends with a victory for the Allied forces, but not without a heavy price. Europe once again lies in ruins, divided by an iron curtain that separates East from West. The United States and the Soviet Union emerge as superpowers, locked in a Cold War that will define global politics for decades to come. The world rebuilds, but the scars of conflict run deep. The dream of lasting peace remains elusive, a distant hope in a world still grappling with the consequences of its divisions. Section 10. The More Things Change. Reflections on an unchanged truth. The alternate history of a world without World War I offers a glimpse into a path not taken. It is a world of technological marvels, cultural achievements, and prolonged peace. Yet it is also a world where the underlying tensions and conflicts that plague humanity remain unresolved. The specific triggers for conflict may change, the players and alliances may shift, but the fundamental human capacity for violence and destruction persists. Perhaps the most important lesson to be learned from this thought experiment is not that war is inevitable, but that peace is a fragile and precious thing, something to be nurtured and protected. It requires constant vigilance, a willingness to confront injustice, and a commitment to dialogue and understanding. The world without World War I reminds us that the pursuit of peace is an ongoing process, a journey that demands our constant attention and unwavering dedication.